A very good evening to all of you and a very warm welcome. Thanks a lot for making to this auspicious event. I, on behalf of Sanofi, welcome all of you. To give you a brief background, Sanofi has been pioneering the whole lot of work which we've been doing in the field of allergy, and it's been over a period of 8 to 9 years now that we've been bringing best-in-class international speakers here for various initiatives that we've been doing over a period of time. Our endeavor has not only been to continue this program, but what we have been able to successfully do is maximize the reach of our initiatives by connecting through various cities across India. This is on similar lines, and we have this time a very special guest. When we talk about allergic rhinitis, ARIA guidelines are the gold standard, globally renowned, and we have none other than the chief of ARIA guidelines, Professor Jean Bousky from Montpellier, France, to address us on this topic. This is the second event that we are doing. We have started yesterday, and our endeavor is to reach across India 105 centers. As on date today, what we talk about, we are also connected to 17 other centers across India, and this also includes 2 from Sri Lanka. So this is more like a program which is going across the border, and I'm sure this would be a very good academic feast for all the clinicians present here as well as throughout India connected through the web centers. To take these proceedings forward, I request my colleague Dr. Rahul to come up and introduce and take forward the proceedings. Dr. Rahul, please.
Thank you so much, Nikunj. Welcome everyone. Today we'll understand what has gone behind in making the ARIA guidelines right from the year 1999 till the recent one, which is published in 2017. And to begin, I would not stand in between sir's presentation. I would like to now announce the webcast centers. So warm welcome to all the webcast centers today. From Agra, we are connected with Professor Dr. Gill. He is an ENT surgeon, and Professor Dr. A.S. Sachan. He is a chest physician. From Ajmer, we have Dr. Neeraj Gupta, who heads the chest department in Ajmer. From Arra, we have Dr. Vivekanand Singh, who is a pediatric pulmonologist, and Dr. J.P. Singh, a pediatric pulmonologist. From Bangalore, we have Dr. Gayatri Pandit. She is an ENT surgeon. From Bangalore again, we have Dr. M. Balasubramania, who is also an ENT surgeon. From Gaya, we have Dr. Shrikant Prasad Singh, who is professor and ex-HOD of Gaya Medical College. He is also an ENT surgeon. We have Senior Dr. Vijay Jain, pediatric pulmonologist. From Ghaziabad, we have Dr. K.K. Pandey, a pulmonologist. From Goa, we have Dr. Durga Lavande, who is the head of department for the pulmonary medicine, GMC, Goa Medical College, Goa. Dr. M.P. Silvera, HOD Peds Department, Goa. From Jabalpur, we have Dr. Nitin Adgaonkar, MS ENT. From Jamnagar, we have Dr. Viral Chhaya, ENT surgeon. Dr. Dinkar Sarvaiya, consultant physician. From Meerut, we have Dr. Wilson Desai. He is an ENT surgeon. From Moradabad, we are connected with Dr. Salim Akhtar, who is an otorhinolaryngologist. From Palanpur, we have Dr. Surendra Gupta, consultant physician, and Dr. Manoj Amin, he is an ENT surgeon. From Rourkela, we are connected with Dr. Debendra Sahu, HOD, Department of ENT and Head Neck Surgery. He is also a joint director and moderator for Rourkela. Dr. Anita Mohanty, HOD, she is a pulmonary medicine graduate. And our international 2 centers. So these were our 15 national centers. We are also connected in Jaffna and Gamfana in Sri Lanka today from this particular venue. To take the proceedings forward, yes, we have Jaffna. From Jaffna, we have Dr. GBL Samara Sekara, who is a consultant respiratory physician, teaching hospital Jaffna, Sri Lanka. And from Gamfaha, we have Priyantha, Dr. Priyantha, consultant family physician. Welcome Lucknow. Here we have none other than Dr. Ish Tyagi. He is an ENT surgeon. His area of specialization is micro ear surgery, nasal endoscopic surgery and cochlear implant surgery. Sir has AVIT training in cochlear implant surgery, and he's got a fellowship from the Japan, underwent multiple trainings, and has mastered the skill of this. His new techniques devised in the management of large angiofibroma with intracranial extension has multiple publications on angiofibromas, vascular malformations of the head and neck, management of epistaxis, endoscopic approach to CSF rhinorrhea, and its further management. Publications go into plenty. I don't think so. It is only restricted to 70 international publication. Is very well indexed in PubMed and the all literature search engines, which we all know. Has been participating as a faculty, as a chairperson, as a moderator in multiple occasions in different national as well as international conferences. Our next chairperson is none other than Dr. Surya Kant. He is a chest physician by profession, by medical education, a gold medalist. His teaching experience spans from 23 years typically to the UG and the PG students. He is examiner for the MD, PG examiner for DTCD and DNB medicine. Editorial, he is on multiple editorial board for various journals, namely 6 international, 4 national, member of the editorial boards of Journal of the Medical Council and the Lucknow Medical Journal. He has won the best innovation in the field of bronchial asthma. Publications, his books are 10 to his credit, chapters are multiple publications, more than 500, clinical trials and original research papers are more than 37 to 40. Sir is also guide and co-guide to more than 90 students today who have trained, and also has been PhD guide for more than 8 students. He is just like Dr. Ishtyagi. He has also mastered various international and national congresses put together in the respiratory medicine. I would now like to call upon Dr. Ishtyagi to come up on stage, and please welcome Professor Jean Bousquet and take over the further proceedings. Thank you so much, sir.
Good evening, friends. It's a very nice opportunity for ENT surgeons and pulmonary medicine doctors of Lucknow to have a person like Dr. Jean to be here with us and give his presentation regarding the criteria for management of allergy. And as we all know, Dr. Jean is a very big name, and he's supposed to have devised these criteria. He comes from Respiratory Medicine University of Montpellier, France. He has had his training in MD, PhD, and from same Montpellier University Hospital. He is a professor medicine currently at Montpellier University, France, and he has many publications, 725 presentations in English, in peer review, his peer reviewed journals, and he's been member of many editorial board of top journals of respiratory medicine. His biodata is so huge, it's very difficult to summarize, and he has about 725 publications, and he is editor to the Allergy European Academy of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, and he is associate editor of Allergy and Clinical Immunology News, and his area of interest is airway modeling in asthma, relationship between asthma and allergy. So that's briefly about him. So today he is here to talk about the ARIA 2017, the current guidelines. So we welcome Dr. Jean to deliver his lecture here. Thank you.
I need to put on. So thank you for being here, and thank you also for our colleagues from 17 different places today, which is remarkable. I'm very impressed. I did once in China, but I never did several times in, so I do it in India today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to discuss about the links between the nose and the lower airways. This is known for centuries, but many of my chest physician colleagues do not look at the nose, and many of my ENT colleagues do not look at the lower airways. And my goal is to tell you, when you have a patient with rhinitis, look to asthma. When you have a patient with asthma, look to rhinitis. I'm going to discuss 5 different points today. 1, United Airway Disease. Yes, but. So I think that the but is important. Secondly, ARIA, allergic rhinitis and its impact on asthma initiative, from its onset, because I created in 1999 at the WHO meeting, to 2016. Then I want to show you that we need to go from guidelines to integrated care pathways, because most of the rhinitis patients, but also asthmatic patients, are seen by GPs. And how many of the GPs in France or in India know the guidelines? 2%? 3%? So we need to do something better. And we need to do it probably with mobile technology, and this is what I will tell you. Then I will discuss the algorithm for the treatment of allergic rhinitis by pharmacotherapy and immunotherapy. And finally, the future therapies or the future management, or better management. So let's start by United Airway Diseases. Well, the first person who really described hay fever was John Bostock, and 200 years ago he presented his case because he was suffering from ocular symptoms at the same season in June, from nasal symptoms and from asthma. So the first description of hay fever was including the nose, the eyes and the lungs. And we still need to understand that these 3 things are coming together. So we did a few different projects, and this project started because I had a patient, very severe asthma. I treated asthma with oral and inhaled corticosteroids, and when I saw the patient a month later, she was very well for asthma, but she was not satisfied. Why? Because she had rhinitis. So we first did an epidemiologic study, and this is the study, and this study shows that in fact there is almost all people with rhinitis, with asthma, have allergic or non-allergic rhinitis. And this was a surprise because we're thinking that asthma and rhinitis were going together because of allergy. We did another study, and it was in the big European respiratory cohort with 60,000 subjects, and we found that the prevalence of asthma in rhinitis was almost none with no rhinitis. It was 6% with seasonal allergic rhinitis, 10% with perennial allergic rhinitis, and 16% with persistent rhinitis. So it is clear that not all rhinitis people have asthma, but almost all asthmatic people have rhinitis. There are other studies, this one from Stefano Guerra, and Stefano assessed the onset of new asthma according to the severity of rhinitis. And again, it's moderate and severe rhinitis which matters. So, with your patients, when they have moderate to severe rhinitis, please check asthma. This study is also interesting. It was done by Professor David Price. And in 26,000 subjects, they showed that those with asthma and rhinitis have much more hospitalizations than those with asthma alone. And there is a specific phenotype, which is the allergic rhinitis and asthma multimorbidity. Yes, but, well, first of all, we investigate patients by questionnaire, and what we did now, we investigated them using a cell phone. And we used 4 visual analog scales. The first one is, overall, how much are your allergic symptoms bothering you today? Not at all, extremely. Then we ask nasal symptoms, ocular symptoms, and asthma. We also ask work productivity, because it is important to assess this component in rhinitis. And what we found, first of all, it is that in 42,000 days, which is quite a sizable number, there is an extraordinarily good correlation between the visual analog scale measured, how are you today, and the visual analog scale from the nose. Well, correlation 0.87. I think it's difficult to get better. But now we understood better the links between the nose and the other organs. In green, you have the prevalence of rhinitis according to the severity of the disease. Can I do this? I don't have a pointer. Okay. No, okay, no problem. So, okay. So in green, you have rhinitis. In orange, you have work. So work productivity is impaired in rhinitis. In red, you have conjunctivitis. And you see that at the far end, when the people are very severe, almost all days are with conjunctivitis. And then you have asthma. But it's interesting to see that for the highest level, in blue, you have a drop in asthma prevalence because you have a phenotype of rhinitis without asthma. So we are going further. And if we assess the severity, we'll find that the severity is going exactly the same way, except for asthma at the very far end, because again, you have patients with rhinitis and without asthma or asthma severity. But the most important issue is this. In fact, the nose and the lower airways are not coming from the same embryologic origin. The asthma is endodermal and rhinitis is ectodermal. Of course, multimorbidity is T2, Th2 associated. But you have remodeling in asthma, you don't have remodeling in the nose, and that's normal because there is such an inflammatory insult in the nose every day by pollution, by allergens, by viruses, that if the nose was remodeling, we couldn't breathe. That's as simple as that. So there is the same inflammatory component, but there is a different structural component, ectodermal and endodermal. Now, ARIA between 1999 and 2016. Well, first of all, the ARIA initiative, allergic rhinitis and its impact on asthma, first of all, as a state-of-the-art for the specialist, the general practitioner, and the healthcare workers. Now we should put the patients. First of all, to update their knowledge of allergic rhinitis. Second, to highlight the impact of allergic rhinitis on asthma. Third, to provide an evidence-based documented revision for diagnosis and treatment, and to propose a stepwise approach for the treatment. But more importantly, it was also to assess the magnitude of the problem in developing countries. 20 years ago, rhinitis was not a major problem in India. Today, I am sure that rhinitis is a major problem because probably 20 to 30% of the population gets rhinitis. And then, with the International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease, we had a specific chapter on developing countries. This was the first time a guideline did that. This guideline was published in the best journal of allergy, and it was translated in 52 languages. That's remarkable that we have Mongolian, we have everything. Well, we have Indian as well. But in India, ARIA has not been too well developed, and I am here to develop it now. Then we did an update, but what we also did, it is a full revision in 2010, so 10 years later, because we used the grade approach. You know that the evidence-based systems can use different approaches, and this one was probably what is recommended now by WHO. It's the grade approach. And in this paper, you have a supplement of 560 pages, because every single evidence system is supported by references and at least 2 pages. So if you want to contradict this, you can go and see what was the evidence. And in fact, we had 2 people who tried to say, well, we do not agree, but this was written in this supplement. So what are the different treatments? First of all, should oral H1 antihistamines be used for the treatment of allergic rhinitis? We recommend new generation of oral H1 antihistamines that do not cause sedation and do not interact with cytochrome P450. So this is for desloratadine, for levocetirizine and fexofenadine. However, we suggest new generation antihistamines that cause some sedation, and then levocetirizine cause some sedation. So there are only 2 recommended drugs, which are fexofenadine and desloratadine. And in fact, this is a study I was leading. You can see in this large study, because it was in 821 patients in the 90s, so it was the largest study done ever. You can see that fexofenadine is as good as cetirizine. But what is important, it is that fexofenadine does not induce sedation, whereas cetirizine induces a sedation which is significantly more than the rest. Levocetirizine causes the same sedation as cetirizine. Well, in fact, the company says that it is half, but in the placebo it's also half. So the ratio is exactly the same. Well, one question here is, if you give a long-term treatment with fexofenadine, does this cause either a reduction of efficacy or a problem for safety? The answer is no. So you can give these treatments, fexofenadine, cetirizine, or desloratadine, for months or years without any problem. I've taken myself oral H1 blockers for a long time, and I didn't have a reduction of efficacy. And there is no problem of safety as well. Now, this is a problem possibly in India, because I know that a lot of patients are still using old generation H1 blockers. And these old generation H1 blockers are inducing sedation, they are inducing also urinary problems, and so on. So it's very important to avoid these old generation H1 blockers. Intranasal corticosteroids, of course, they are very effective, but we all know that. The problem is that most of our patients want to take a pill, they don't want to take a puff. Is it the same in India? In France it is like this. So, you know, it's good to have alternatives. That is to say, during the peak of the symptoms, then you give glucocorticosteroids. Well, I must say that we don't have a combination in France, and this combination may be very effective. We don't have the combination between fexofenadine and montelukast that you have in India. So the ARIA guidelines have been accepted by governments, at least 10 governments, and there is now a new revision. I'm not going to discuss many details of it, because in fact it only gives some small improvement over what was known. ARIA is now in Europe with euphoria. So now we have a guideline. We know that this guideline is correct, but no one used that. So we need to do something else. We need to go from guideline to integrated care pathways. And this is what we have done. MASC is MAC via ARIA Sentinel Network. Well, first of all, this is the title of one of my latest papers. Well, I've published about 20 since then, but this was published in December. It is Care Pathways Implementing Emerging Technologies for Predictive Medicine in Rhinitis and Asthma Across the Life Cycle. Care Pathways, Emerging Technologies, because this is what we need to do, and to do predictive medicine when we need. This is one of the action plans of a bigger program which is called Integrated Care Pathway for Airway Diseases, and this is the EU and WHO. So I think it is a very solid program, and we have Ministry of Health among the authors. As I told you, this is fully accepted by the EU. So what I'm going to tell you now is an EU program, and in fact 4 EU programs. Well, this is one of the key slides of the day. Why? Because many patients with allergic rhinitis do not consult at all. But many patients self-medicate. They take on their shelves what they have, and they take it in a completely aberrant way. So self-medication is a very important problem there. Second, less in India than in Europe, because pharmacists are probably less important in India than in Europe. In Europe, people go to the pharmacist, and this is the first filter. And probably 70% of the patients go to the pharmacist because it takes several days to get a prescription. So they go to the pharmacist to get something. And then they go to the primary care physician, and they end to the specialist, and for asthma they may end in emergency care. And if we understand better these care pathways, if we use a single tool for these care pathways, for the patient and for the healthcare professional, then it will be better. And this is what we have tried to do with ARIA. So we first proposed an algorithm for the treatment of allergic rhinitis. And we differentiated 2 groups. Those people who are not treated and see a physician, and those people who are treated. By the way, you mostly see people who are treated and who are not well. How many patients do you see when they are without treatment? Very few. So what I'm going to show, 2 slides, but the second slide is more important for you. This has been published in the best journal of allergy, and the group of people who have published this is over 250. So first of all, we used a visual analog scale, because this is probably the best system to assess the control of rhinitis. You draw a line and you ask the patient, where are you? If the patient is over 5 out of 10, the patient is not well controlled. If the patient is less, the patient is not badly controlled. So if you have 2 VAS, VS less than 5, or VS over 5. Less than 5, you have first line, it is anti-H1, or intranasal corticosteroids, or montelukast, or, many drugs can be used. Now, you reassess quickly, and with our system, we reassess daily, because we have found in 5,000 subjects that people change their treatment daily. They want to be controlled, and if they are not controlled, they increase their treatment without knowledge. So if the visual scale is low, then you consider step down the treatment. But I'm going to tell you something. The patients stop the treatment by themselves. Who has allergic rhinitis in the room? No one? I'm the only one to have allergic rhinitis in this room? 2. Well, no more than 2? No one with 3? Come on, raise your hands. Come on. I raise my 2 hands, so it will help. So, only 3? Well, you're not in the normal population, because you should have 20%. So about 20 people here. So, do you take your treatment regularly? Yes? Wow, you are a great guy. I don't. And I read the guidelines. So, well, I'm sorry to say that I'm taking the treatment when I'm not well. So I've tried to adapt the guidelines to what I'm doing, because then I will be happy to follow my guidelines. So the next step is, if the patient is not well controlled, you step up, and if you still are not well controlled, you consider two things. First of all, you consider an ENT assessment, because possibly it is a problem which is not allergic, but it is an ENT problem, and then you consider immunotherapy. When you have a treated symptomatic patient, well, if you have, again, few symptoms, then usually people step down their treatment. If on the other hand, you have, more symptoms, then you go to intranasal corticosteroids, or you can go to the combination you have in India and we don't have in France, which is fexofenadine, montelukast. This does not exist in Europe. I think it is only in India. So you know. So I cannot discuss what it is because we don't know it. And then, if the patient is not well controlled, you reassess again, and you go to immunotherapy. So this is a very complex chart. But now, it is completely digitalized. So the doctor or the pharmacist can assess with 3 clicks what may be the optimal treatment. I'm not speaking for the specialists because we know what to do, but the GPs are usually completely lost. And they have many patients. They see dozens of patients a day, so they need to go fast. Now, there is something quite interesting, because there is this drug, which is montelukast and fexofenadine, and it has been tested in 2 studies. In the first study, in August 2013, there was a significant difference, and in fact, montelukast plus fexofenadine showed better improvement in symptoms and less incidence of sedation. Remember sedation, which is an important component, as compared to montelukast and levocetirizine. Well, it's good to have a study, but it's better to have 2 studies. And this is exactly what happened. There is a second study which has confirmed exactly the same data. So I think it is very interesting to see that a combination which is innovative from India is of interest in the treatment of allergic rhinitis, and may be very important for those patients who only like to get a pill. Now, immunotherapy. Well, immunotherapy, we have 2 types of immunotherapy. One is by injection, the other one is sublingual. By injection, there are very few papers which are of good quality. So, when we do a meta-analysis, people are assessing poor studies. And I think that sublingual immunotherapy is far more validated than subcutaneous immunotherapy. In fact, it has been validated in this study with the Stalagen product, which was for grass pollen. It has been validated for ragweed in this study from the US with the ALK product. But very interestingly, they have been approved by FDA and by the EMEA. So, in fact, the only allergen extracts approved by FDA are sublingual immunotherapy, and EMEA as well. They are also effective in house dust mite allergy, and I know that house dust mite allergy is a major factor in your country, and there is only one product accepted, which is LK. But what is very interesting, and this has been approved in 2015, now they are approved in the US as well. What is very interesting, it is that it is said persistent, moderate to severe house dust mite allergy, despite use of symptoms relieving medication. It is exactly the wording of ARIA. So the EMA have used the wording of ARIA to register the immunotherapy for mite allergy. Now, the question, shall we use future therapies or better management? Well, as you know, and this is again a study which done with European Union. As you know, people today like endophenotyping network of complex diseases. Well, no one knows what it is, but people like it. Well, I've tried to do that as well. And they like the whole genome sequencing process. So you have a patient with allergic rhinitis, you are going to do endophenotype network of complex disease and a genome sequencing. Well, give me a break. And I've done it because I have a paper, I have 40 papers on this project. But today, I prefer the finger approach. So one finger, but for VS, it's better to have this one. You put your finger on the cell phone on a visual analog scale. And this is probably going to change our practice because it is so simple. Because we need simple things and we don't need complex things. So again, we go to these care pathways and we have developed both a cell phone and a tablet. The tablet for the healthcare professionals, the cell phone for the patients. And in 1 minute, the patient can print his or her own data and bring this to the physician. So the physician, in 1 minute, sees what was the pollen season, what were the symptoms. Because when you see patients, they tell you, doctor, I'm not satisfied, it doesn't work. But is it because they don't take a drug, or is it because they're not well controlled? Here, we have this immediately. We are now in 21 countries. Well, I'm going to show you 1 or 2 examples. Well, you know, 2 screens. One, you have runny nose, itchy nose, sneezing, congestion, red eyes, itchy eyes, and watery eyes. And the other one is affect my sleep, restrict my daily activities, restrict my participation in school or work, and are troublesome. And you can see here that you have yes and no, no and yes. So for troublesome symptoms, you see that there is an increase of work and school, daily activities and sleep. But for conjunctivitis, you don't have an increase in sleep. So it's because you have nasal obstruction, severe nasal obstruction, that you do not sleep well. And it is because you have ocular symptoms that you don't work well. So this system can help us to understand what the patient is. And also used, as I told you, these visual analog scale measurements. It's very interesting to see that the 3 intranasal corticosteroids have low levels of symptoms. The 3 H1 blockers have higher levels of symptoms. This is in monotherapy, and if you give polytherapy, the patients have worse symptoms. So the guidelines are telling you, you increase the treatment because you want to improve the patient. And I'm telling, well, the patients increase their treatment because they want to be well, but there is a phenotype of patients who are not going to be well despite optimal treatment. So we probably need to better understand these patients and to improve them, because rhinitis is impairing work and school activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very insightful session. I think we started with the history of ARIA, the way it has evolved over a period of time, and you've helped us to understand till the latest date in terms of a very technological advanced way of managing the patients as well. I'm sure here, as well as all the centers connected, have a lot of questions. What we would do is, as we also compile the questions and we put down our questions in this center, we'll take a very short commercial break over here. So I just request you to focus on a very short commercial break over here from our side, and then we'll proceed with the Q&A session.
Not as long as yet.
and welcome to the Health Hour. This is your host Bharti Kumaria, bringing you the latest updates from the health world. To begin with, the newest buzz in the market is GST. From 1st of July, GST has affected various sectors in different ways, but we turn our spotlight on the health sector. It is expected that GST would have a constructive effect on the pharma sector. There are hopes to witness a promising development in healthcare. Moving on, monsoon has set in India. Torrential downpour, particularly over Mumbai, Delhi and parts of Gujarat, has affected the cities along with its people. And with the rain and increasing pollution, allergy season has set in. Rain boosts allergens like pollen and mold, causing runny noses, thus triggering the condition of allergic rhinitis. Ignoring symptoms like sneezing, nasal itching and obstruction can impact quality of life and hamper day-to-day activities. We interrupt this bulletin with the breaking news. Reports have just come in that pharmaceutical giant Sanofi has crossed yet another milestone. For the very first time, Sanofi's hugely popular anti-allergy brand Allegra M has been endorsed for its quality and innovation, and the reports are published in the renowned Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Allegra M, the #1 fexofenadine montelukast drug, is used to treat persistent allergic rhinitis. The published reports talk about the bioequivalence of this combination. Over the years, Sanofi constantly innovated and improved upon Allegra and developed Allegra M in 2013, the first ever bioequivalent bilayer tablet. This publication is a testimony to this remarkable feat. The Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences has recognized this very innovative spirit. And for more on this breaking news, let's have someone from the house of Sanofi who has developed this formulation of Allegra M, Dr. Praveen Kullar from Goa Development Center. Dr. Kullar, welcome to our show and congratulations. How do you feel on Allegra M's endorsement in Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences?
I'm extremely delighted for such an endorsement and high quality results done at a CRO approved by US FDA. And we got a perfect matching with the individual reference product.
Can you tell us more about Allegra M's manufacturing process and how you were successful in developing such innovative and high quality standard formulation?
Allegra M is developed by innovative team using a very innovative granulation process. Fexofenadine granulation is done in an inert gas atmosphere. Montelukast granulation is done in a very selective light conditions. Innovative bilayer technology is used to get the most stabilized formulation.
Dr. Kullar, please share your insights on how Allegra M is better compared to other molecules in the market.
Allegra M has got perfect dissolution mapping compared to the reference. Allegra M also has a low sulfur oxide content as compared to the other brands.
So can you tell us your mantra on commitment towards quality?
We manufacture Allegra M in a EU GMP facilities using a very strict in-process controls and also validated processes. All the raw materials come from a highly qualified vendors, and the goodness of two reference products in one is going to give enhanced patient compliance.
Thank you, Dr. Kullar, for taking the time out to tell us more about Allegra M. Also, I would like to congratulate the Sanofi team on this wonderful achievement. So be rest assured, as now if it's about quality and innovation, the answer is Allegra M. On this note, this is Bharti Kumaria signing off. Stay happy, stay healthy, and remember, when you think of trusted anti-allergy drug, think Allegra.
So thank you all of you. Indeed a real moment of pride for you have been using and you have been that we have brought in, and a very important milestone for us as we receive recognition for very beautifully indigenously developed product that we have and which you just saw. What we would do is just before the Q&As, I would request both our chairpersons to join us and have a very small symbolic unveiling of this milestone which we have achieved. So may I request Dr. Suryakant and Dr. Ish Tyagi and Professor Buski to join us here, and followed by that we'll have our Q&As.
I'm Dr. Suryakant. Nice to meet you.
That photograph?
Thank you so much, sirs, and may I now request for you to join on the dais and we'll take answer sessions. Thank you, sir.
Oh, no. I'm shy. Yes.
So can we have a big round of applause for Joe Buski? A man who started his journey on this link of allergic rhinitis and asthma 18 years back in 1999 as a founder chairman of ARIA. I don't think this kind of clap is, I think, deserved for him. So can you repeat this? Yes.
Thank you.
So really, this is the privilege and honor of the Lucknow city. That is the capital of India's largest state, that is Uttar Pradesh. We have 29 states in this country, and this Uttar Pradesh is the largest state, and Lucknow is the capital of it. So we have enjoyed this talk, and now I request all of you to write your questions, queries, your comments on this talk. And before that, I can ask my first question. So, as a pioneer in this field of allergic rhinitis asthma link, although we also, I think in last 10 years, we have discussed a lot about link between ENT and of course the chest physicians, the allergic asthma link. One of my favorite example to tell the people, to tell even the common man, what is the link between allergic rhinitis and asthma, that the link of nose and lung is like a roof and floor of a house, where nose is the roof and lung is the floor. If your roof is leaking, it will spoil your floor. So that is the link between the nose and lung. And we have been beautifully advocating this link for last 10 years in this city, in this state, and in this country also. So my first question to John Buski is that how do you feel, and in a global perspective, that what is your journey of awareness of the link between allergic rhinitis and asthma, and where you stand in 2017 in comparison to 1999? Dr.
Well,
John.
very simple. I think I should, okay. Very simple. In 1999, I was the chairman of GINA. And I said to Claude L'Enfant, who was director of the NIH branch of respiratory disease, I said to Claude, you know, my patients tell me that there is a link between the nose and lower airways. His reply is, if you do that, I fire you. If you don't comply to my satisfaction, because my institute is starting here, and you want me to start upper. And I said, well, Claude, I just want the satisfaction of my patients. So in 1999, when I was saying to my colleagues, because I'm a chest physician, at ERS, at ATS, that asthma and rhinitis were linked. They were saying, well, in allergy people, and now no one would argue that this is not the case. So I think that at the specialist level, this is a given. 20 years ago, it was not. And still, in GINA, the chapter on rhinitis is wrong, because it is on rhinosinusitis. It's not in rhinitis. Since 90% of our asthmatic patients have rhinitis, if a guideline in asthma does not consider rhinitis multimorbidity, it's not a good guideline. Sorry. Because you are treating only this part of the patient, and the patient wants to be treated globally. I think that now, at least in France, people know that they should treat the lungs and the lower airways. I don't know in India, but now it's common sense for the general practitioner. I think we went from a long journey, you know.
Yeah, I think that's true. When I was a student, then this was not the concept. Allergy used to be a separate thing, and asthma was taught separately. And now recently, after I've come out of the institute and I've sort of moved around with people, I realized that most patients of allergy have asthma, and maybe it's vice versa also. So I think the condition has to be treated together. And as I can see, maybe from some time from now, we will have specialists who would be handling both things together, not as a chest physician looking at the asthma part and a ENT surgeon looking at the allergy part. Because we have many surgeries for consequences of this nasal allergy or allergic rhinosinusitis that we do, FES and many more things. But ultimately the root cause of it is allergy, and it has a medical condition, and probably a timely intervention should not lead to surgical outcome. So that.
So can some volunteer can collect the questions?
Or maybe they can.
And do you have any email questions? Yeah. You see, every third patient of allergic rhinitis is a potential candidate of bronchial asthma. So I think every ENT practitioner should refer his allergic rhinitis patient to a chest specialist. And if this kind of filtering, this kind of referral we can practice, so we can early diagnose the patients of bronchial asthma. So now we are having questions coming. Sir, this is your first question from outside the Lucknow. This question is from Dr. Ankit Sinha, Ghaziabad. What is the role of surgery in chronic allergic rhinitis? I think this.
This is for you.
Yeah, this is for you.
I'm not a surgeon.
We are both of us. We are not surgeons.
No,
we are
no.
chest physicians.
Yes.
As I said, that a properly treated and diagnosed case of nasal allergy or allergic sinusitis, the surgical requirement would be minimum. So I think timely diagnosis and timely medical intervention can prevent
Yes.
lot of surgeries that we do in for management of allergic rhinosinusitis. Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
The second question is from Agra. Should immunotherapy be continued in medical management? If yes, when should it be considered? Dr. Ritu Gupta, ENT surgeon, Agra.
Well, okay. But immunotherapy is not, pharmacotherapy and immunotherapy should be given together. Because in fact, immunotherapy is not going to cure the patient, but it's going to improve the level of pharmacotherapy. So giving both immunotherapy and pharmacotherapy will help the patients to have a normal life.
Now, I agree with Dr. Buski, because usual dictum also that we start the pharmacotherapy and if indicated immunotherapy. And of course, in due course of time, immunotherapy can reduce the pharmacotherapy. The
Yes.
doses of inhalation therapy in allergic rhinitis with asthma, even the frequency of the inhalation therapy, and the usual protective efficacy is around 3 to 5 years. But the problem with this specific immunotherapy is that recurrence bound to come. Usually, this is also not resulting into a permanent cure. The third question is the prevalence of viral in allergic rhinitis. Dr. Ankit from Gazia. So I think he's talking of viral exacerbations of allergic rhinitis and secondary exacerbation of asthma.
Well, we know that a rhinoviral infection is inducing asthma in an asthmatic patient. What we do not know is, number one, whether there are more rhinologic infections in subjects with allergic diseases. Second, if the infection is lasting longer. Thirdly, if the infection is more severe. Well, this is a question which is pending, and no one is able to say that. It is possible that allergy is increasing the severity of rhinitis, but what we know it is that viruses are inducing asthma, and this is the major trigger.
Another question is from Dr. K.K. Pandey, Ghaziabad, that what is the role of flu vaccine in allergic rhinitis?
None.
Actually, vaccination in the asthma, this has been very well documented. And one of the trigger factor for exacerbation of asthma is allergic rhinitis. So in asthmatics, we are doing routinely flu vaccination annually. And usually there is a change in the strain at every season. And that's why the yearly flu vaccination should be recommended for patients who are having allergic rhinitis along with bronchial asthma.
Yes.
So yes. We invite question from the audience. Any question from audience? Direct questions to Dr. Buski.
Yes.
Yeah, please introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Can you speak?
Can you speak closely? Can you keep your mic closely?
Because here. Yes, now it
Yeah.
works.
Hi, I'm Dr. Simple Padania. I am an ENT surgeon, and I just wanted to ask if a patient of allergic rhinitis with asthma approaches us, what should be our investigation, what should be our approach to the patient in first visit, and if a patient has recurrent history of rhinitis. So what all investigations should we do?
In ARIA, we recommend. Sometimes this is
EC count or absolute eosinophilic count or anything?
yes.
You see, in King George Medical University, the university which I belong to here in Lucknow, we have developed a KGMU protocol for investigation of patient of allergic rhinitis with bronchial asthma. And we are following, as you know, that 80% of patient of asthma, they are having allergic rhinitis. Dr. Buski is saying around 90%. So in France and India, the scenario is same, around 80 to 90% of bronchial asthma patients, they are having allergic rhinitis. And we are following the protocol. The simple protocol is that you should do hemoglobin TLC, DLC, absolute eosinophil count, number one. Number 2, serum IG, know whether patient is atopic or non-atopic. Number 3, X-ray paranasal sinuses or CT paranasal sinuses, whatever your preference. Number 4, chest X-ray PA view. Why? Although in allergic rhinitis and in asthma, in both cases, X-ray will be normal, but for excluding the other lung disorders, the chest X-ray is also part of our protocol. And number 5 is the pulmonary function test. Your patient must undergo for spirometry, for lung function test, because you don't know who is the third allergic rhinitis patient who has developed bronchial asthma. So ideally, every patient of allergic rhinitis should be screened for pulmonary functions. So these are the 5 investigations we are recommending as a KGMU protocol. If you agree, if you can follow, you can provide your feedback after 1 year or so.
Sure. And do you prefer vaccination also at the first visit? No.
Vaccination, you are talking of flu vaccine and pneumococcal vaccine? Not on first visit. After evaluation, after confirmation of the diagnosis, yes, we do practice both vaccines, the pneumococcal vaccine and the influenza vaccine. Any questions from the audience?
I am Dr. Ajay Kumar, pediatrician from Lucknow. My question is, because many of our children who are young, they are taking inhaled corticosteroids with a spacer and mask. So do they require separate intranasal corticosteroids for the management of concomitant allergic rhinitis? Because once they are taking it with mask, the steroids are being delivered to the nose. So
that's good.
So do you think, shall we give them intranasal corticosteroids separately?
Well, it depends if the symptoms are, the problem of wheezing in young children is the question, is it asthma, is it wheezing? If the child has both nose and lung symptoms, it's mostly asthma, especially if you have allergy. So if you use a mask, the child is breathing through the nose, and so it will go through the nose. So it's a very good it's a very good treatment of rhinitis, and then you will see whether the child is getting better or not. But this is a good approach, very good.
So even those children who can take the ICS directly from mouth, they can be recommended mask and spacer for this condition.
Yes, absolutely.
So that way we can spare intranasal corticosteroids. Then I have another question about this Allegra-M, that's fexofenadine and Montelukast. During an allergic flare, when the allergy starts, it is primarily the antihistamines which are at fire. So antihistamines are quite well recommended in this condition. Whether adding Montelukast during acute phase helps, and same way later on while the maintenance and for prevention of allergic rhinitis, whether this adding antihistamine is going to give any benefit or simple Montelukast would be sufficient.
Well, Montelukast is active on allergic rhinitis on probably different mechanism than H1 blockers. So I think it is, if you have the product in this country, I think it is very good to have it. In France, we don't have it, so we cannot do it.
But later on for prevention, when histamines do not play so much of role.
Prevention of asthma,
for rhinitis.
H1 blockers do not prevent asthma, and I don't think that Montelukast will prevent asthma.
No, I am talking about allergic rhinitis mainly. Prevention of allergic rhinitis, whether a combination of Montelukast and fexofenadine is recommended.
Or his question is that during flare-up, we should use the H1 blocker or we should use both Montelukast and H1 blocker?
I think that you should both. You should use both.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And for later phase when we are preventing allergic rhinitis?
I tell you, I try not to confuse the patient. So if the patient is happy with one medication, I don't change.
Okay.
Yeah, any other question from audience?
Hello sir, I'm Dr. Rajat. I'm a senior resident in SGPGI. There are few preformed immunoglobulins available in the market. So are they having any role in allergic rhinitis?
Can you repeat the question?
So there are few preformed immunoglobulins available in the market.
Okay.
So are they having any kind of role in allergic rhinitis or not?
Is there any role of immunoglobulins in the management of allergic rhinitis?
I don't think so.
ARIA, previous ARIA also and 2017 ARIA also, they don't recommend. They have become rather outdated. We are not using now. So one question from outside the Lucknow. The preference between nasal antihistaminic versus oral antihistaminics.
Well, that's another problem because you know you have oral H1 blockers, intranasal H1 blockers, intranasal corticosteroids, montelukast mainly. And there is also the combination between azelastine and fluticasone. This combination is quite effective, but patients don't like too much to have some oral, some intranasal drugs. So it is patient's preference, because we know that you have a first line which is H1 blockers and a second line which is intranasal corticosteroids. But intranasal corticosteroids don't like very much, people don't like very much to use them long term, at least in my country, and I think this may be the case in your country. So the problem, and luckily the patient preference is very important, because otherwise we would give exactly the same treatment to everyone.
Yeah. Any question from audience? Yeah.
Yes.
Please, mic please. Introduce yourself, Dr. Sahab, and then.
I again want to ask the clarification, that's for allergic rhinitis prevention. We should give the combination or only montelukast?
If that position should be clear, whether we should give long-term combination or only montelukast for the prevention, not for the initial phase.
Well, I tell you, as I said before, montelukast is very safe, and this is known, and fexofenadine is very safe. So I think that the combination is very safe as well. My problem is that if you give different pills to your patient, the patient will take them in an erratic order. So I prefer to give a single treatment rather than two treatments.
One question is from outside the Lucknow, that anti-allergics dry up airway secretions. Can it worsen asthma?
What?
Antihistaminics, they dry up the bronchial secretions.
No, this is an old story from 1980. In the US, there were anticholinergic antihistamines which were thought to dry the secretions. And there was a contraindication of some antihistamines. But this does not apply with the newer, with all the new generation antihistamines from loratadine and cetirizine and after. No, this is a very good question, but it is something which has been ruled out.
Do you like to taper the steroid nasal spray in allergic rhinitis patient in long-term treatment?
Well, this is a very complex. Well, I think that you give. Well, if I can give you the example of 5,000 patients in Europe using this system, the IT system, and I tell you, as soon as they are well, they stop. Yeah. So they don't taper, they stop. And as soon as they are not well, they restart their treatment. And not only they restart, but they make 1, 2, 3, 4 drugs a day, and it is a complete mess. So give a single treatment, don't taper, give it, because otherwise you are not going to, and the patients do not follow our advice, at least in France or in Europe, they don't follow advice. They do what they want, and here there is also a cost effect, because in France drugs are reimbursed, but here they are not necessarily reimbursed.
One very popular questions, such type of forums, how long montelukast can be used? What is the maximum period? Unknown.
Well, I tell you, people have used montelukast for a decade now, and I don't think there is any side effect which has been seen. And the same for H1 blockers. So these are safe products, and there is no tachyphylaxis. That is to say, if you give the treatment, the effect is not decreasing.
You see, the basic principle of this modern medicine is the allopathy system of medicine. The message is very much clear that patient should be symptom free, whether without pills or with pills.
Yes.
So there is no question of duration. So continue it. Any question from audience? Yes.
Yes.
Sir, you just now told that sublingual immunotherapy is better than subcutaneous immunotherapy. So what is the protocol, how it should be made, and how it should be instilled to the patients? Can you please throw some light on it?
Sublingual immunotherapy.
Well, very simple. Do you have tablets in this country available?
Yes, there are few centers in this country who are using, not in this part of the country, northern India, but in South India and some western part, they are using sublingual immunotherapy.
With tablets?
With tablets.
Okay. Because with tablets it's very simple. You follow the protocol which is registered. First dose is administered in the presence of the doctor, and then it's given by the patient only.
And this is a great news that in 2017 GINA guidelines, this has become part of
Yes.
GINA guidelines also.
Yes.
So now sublingual immunotherapy is a part of GINA guidelines. What are the long-term effects of fexofenadine and montelukast if used continuously? Is there any long-term side effect?
No, I said that already.
Any question from audience?
Now one questions come from Goa. How long one needs to use fexofenadine montelukast in a 5-year-old child with AR who is asymptomatic?
Well, I
I
think
think
that
you answered it.
answer, yes.
I think most of these questions are already answered. Any question from the audience?
Wait a minute, microphone, because otherwise we don't hear.
Youngest
hear you.
age he's asking.
Sorry?
Youngest age at which we can start.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know in your country which is the youngest age. Because no. It depends on the on the approval, and I cannot tell you that. In France, mometasone furoate can be given at 2 years, levocetirizine as well, but others later. So I'm sorry to say that it is dependent, and I was not seeing young children, so I don't know exactly. But it is in the regulation of your country, because I know that in the US and in Europe, the age are different.
Cetirizine can be used rather than levocetirizine after the age of 6 months.
6 months, okay.
Maximum age for the use of cetirizine rather than levocetirizine. Levocetirizine cannot be used below even after 6 months of age. So cetirizine that way is safe.
What about fexofenadine?
Fexofenadine I could not find. Cetirizine is well accepted.
6 months fexofenadine.
6 months of fexofenadine also, right.
But levocetirizine is exactly like cetirizine. So it's because UCB, the company, didn't fill the files that there is a difference. It's why this is country dependent, because I'm sorry, I don't have my...
Because the studies are there on cetirizine and not on levocetirizine,
Yes.
that's why.
Yes.
Any other question from the house?
One second, microphone.
I'm Dr. Rupa Sharma, pediatrician. I want to know that how fruitful is a combination of nasal oxymetazoline plus antihistaminics in children in preventing allergic rhinitis.
Well, I think that it should not be given for
It should
more
not.
than 6 days.
Okay.
6 days and 1 week is better.
Thank you.
Almost sick.
In France it is 6 days.
Yeah.
It's
In
7.
here, more commonly 1 week. More commonly we write.
So, we are about the same, plus or minus 1. Very funny, by the way.
So, any other?
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Ajay.
Sir, myself Dr. Ajay Verma, chest physician in KGMU. I have a question. Management of allergic rhinitis in pregnancy.
In pregnancy. Well, you can give, but first of all, many women become pregnant and they're taking medications. So it's clear that budesonide has been tested, that loratadine, cetirizine, fexofenadine and others can be used, but they are not tested. So in France, because I don't know what is regulation in India as well, but in France we allow this because it is the current practice. I don't know in India what it is.
Actually, the Montelukast have been, there are no trial or use of Montelukast in pregnancy.
Yes.
So, we can't say that whether it is safe during pregnancy or not safe, but there is no evidence available, no trials available for use of Montelukast during pregnancy. Otherwise, all antihistaminics can be used, I mean the second line.
Second generation, not
second generation, yes.
After the first trimester.
Yeah.
But you know, the lady becomes pregnant and then she's still taking the drugs.
Before the diagnosis is made.
Yes, you know.
So, thank you very much from our side. Is there any question left from the audience? Any other question?
No,
so thank you very much for all of you. And now this is the time for a great round of applause for all of you and all those who have joined on webcast.
Thank you.
Because it is you who have made this program a grand success. And somebody is talking of young age. I just remember a click came to the mind. Who is the youngest president of any country in the world? It is France. So good general knowledge in this audience. So thank you very much and इधर recording हो रही सर, ये हम discuss नहीं कर सकते. So thank you very much for our sponsors Sanofi. So please and thank you very much from chairperson, co-chairperson and our speaker, and thank you for sponsoring this mega event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Adding to what you have already shared. In fact, Lucknow audience has been always great to all of us. And I must share with all of you that Dr. Job Uski is here in the country and visiting not more than 4 to 5 locations. So Lucknow always having a privilege to have the physical presence of the international speakers. So we are truly grateful to you for taking out your precious time this weekday evening. And we are extremely thankful to Dr. Job Uski for his enlightening talk to all of us, as well as Dr. Suryakant for taking out valuable time and guiding us, as well as Dr. Ish Tyagi. So with this, I would request you to join us for dinner. And I think we are again assuring you that we will continue to add the value to the CMEs we arrange at Lucknow. Maybe if you can give priority to the female doctors over here, as there is a rush and possibly the space over here is having some constraint in the space. So I would request you kindly allow the female doctor colleagues to have a dinner first. Maybe our male doctor colleagues possibly can wait for 5-10 minutes. Thank you so much once again.